All right, let's talk about some more surprises along the way. Perhaps some tides turning for some teams at this point in the season. We got to talk about Orlando Pride versus Washington Spirit because down goes Washington 2-1 to Orlando Pride. Orlando coming off of some good couple weeks here in the league. I kind of felt, I think when we recapped the previous week, we felt Orlando was a little bit unlucky to maybe come away with all the points against Gotham, and carried a little bit of that momentum into this week and came out with a 2-1 win against the Spirit. Love to see it.
Massive for Seb Hines and Orlando. 4 games unbeaten at this point in the season. They're on a bit of a run. They are. And to take down the number 1 in the standings, undefeated team Washington Spirit, especially when you're going up against a lineup that's Ashley Hatch, Trinity Rodman, Ashley Sanchez in that front 3 trio. It's a really tall task to go up against this team. We talked a little bit about it in the preview. Anna Morehouse has owned that goalkeeping position for Seb Hines and Orlando Pride. She has stepped in and made that her position and her role, and she has dominated. And of course, she does get one in, right, against her. This Washington side does get one. But the fact that Morehouse made so many incredible saves throughout this game, that's what really impressed me. That despite the pressure happening with the team and incredible shots from Washington, there were a couple moments where I was like, that should have found the back of the net. And Anna Morehouse comes out of nowhere making a save. And the shots from Washington were typical Washington shots that we're used to seeing outside the box, a lot of pace on them, really good texture through traffic. So it's hard for the goalkeeper to see. And Morehouse made it look pretty easy. But we got to talk about some of these goals, Sandra, because Marta, the Brazilian FIFA World Player of the Year, superstar Marta, she gets on the scoreboard. Her first goal since October of 2021 comes by way of a penalty kick in the 23rd minute. Tough for Washington how this one led up. Then Marta gets the penalty kick, but Washington responds immediately on a set-piece corner kick. Another defender goal. Sam Staub gets the equalizer just a few minutes after Marta's penalty kick. But man, Marta, she's back maybe, opening the floodgates?
Look, the Brazilians were just killing it this weekend. Week 8 belongs to Brazil because Adriana wins this foul in the box. It was poor challenge from Brooks on Adriana. Marta says, this is mine. Going to step up, take it, converts. It's a huge moment. You could see what it means to her. You could see what it means to the teammates around her. And I mean, it's an important goal to get. You're going up against the only undefeated team at the time. It's a big stage, I think, in terms of some of the storylines that you're taking a look at going into a match like that. And I think to have that early goal and give yourself an opportunity to play ahead instead of from behind, which is something that Orlando hasn't had the opportunity to do often this season. I think it was a really important moment, for the team to go ahead and try to rally behind that, and they did. And I loved your comments on Morehouse. I think we saw early quarter of this season where maybe there were some question marks and some unknowns about who was actually going to be the starting goalkeeper for this team moving forward, who was going to have that responsibility in the net. I think I want to talk a little bit about, Emily Madrill and Megan Montefusco. I think that was a pairing that we had been waiting for to finally come together and get to see as a duo in that center back pairing. And now we're getting to see it on a little bit more consistent basis. And I think it's starting to pay off. Madrill doesn't look as maybe wide-eyed of a rookie as she did in those first early weeks of the season, is looking far more comfortable. And a healthy Montefusco, I think, maybe contributes to that a little bit when you have a veteran presence next to you and are able to develop that kind of good chemistry. So with your center back duo kind of on the same page, that also obviously helps with your starting goalkeeper as well moving forward. So I loved it. I really, really did. And I think not to just sort of end this, cap it off at the end with Marta, but she also delivers the assist on this game winner for Strom. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, Marta just playing lights out this game. Being at home in Exploria, I think she also played into that. It's a little bit more helpful when you're doing that. But you touched on Adriana. The play from this type of player in those wide areas of the field. Adriana had insane crosses into the box.
Yeah.
If there were Orlando runners on the back post, they probably would have had 2 or 3 more, because the balls that Adriana was whipping in across the mouth of the goal and just no one touching them, and it going all the way through, maybe skidding off a Washington defender going out for a corner, or just going out all the way on the other side. There has to be those runners far post, because if Adriana is doing all that work to work down the flank, beat defenders, send crosses in, you got to have someone on that back post. But Kylie Strom gets the game winner in the 77th minute. I'm into the stats. Looking at them this weekend, 14 shots for Orlando, and Washington only had 9. Yep. However, 6 of the Spirit's 9 shots were on frame and on goal. But Orlando, with 14 shots, outshooting their opposition, that's what I like to see. You got to take those shots in order to get them. I think Messiah Bright also had moments and spells throughout this game where she looked not at all like a rookie, similar to Emily Madrill, getting rid of that bright-eyed play that they had in the first opening weeks of being a professional in the NWSL, and just owning their game a little bit more. And we saw that confidence from Messiah Bright at moments during this game.
Yeah, I think it's a big win for them. I mean, look, they hand Washington Spirit their first loss of the season. Spirit, I like you ran down the stats, but because it ultimately paints a picture overall that they weren't necessarily completely out of this game, but they did have areas in the pitch in which they did struggle. I don't know if this is the type of loss that they take a look at and say, gosh, that was demoralizing. Perhaps maybe it is going to be a different type of motivating factor for this team going into week 9, having been the only team undefeated for as long as they were. Now something a little bit different to play for moving forward, trying to maybe get back into the win column and get back to the top, because this loss left the opportunity open for other teams to jump. So we'll see how Washington respond from a game like this, and honestly how Orlando builds off a game like this, because again, this is finally a game where they were able to play in front of instead of from behind, and maybe they get to carry that momentum into week 9.
You and I both having Washington in this one too. So
love to be wrong.
Yeah,
love to be wrong in the name of
keeping people up to date on our picks
and keeping ourselves honest. Because look, we'll definitely no one will expose us more than ourselves. So yeah, fully. Let's pivot to another match that we were maybe looking at that could dictate some different things in the standings, and it does for San Diego Wave FC. We're going to talk a little bit about Houston Dash and their 3-0 loss against San Diego. Again, if we're keeping ourselves honest, I think I had Houston in this one as maybe the team to try to utilize this and motivate them. We both did. So
we both had Dash.
Let's talk about how we were incorrect and maybe how the Dash kind of let us down on our pick here. I think I said this similarly about Chicago not having a lot of answers against Portland, Reign not having a lot of answers against Gotham, Houston not a lot of answers against San Diego Wave in this one, and they were the hosts, so not a lot of travel on them. They got to wake up in their own beds, prepare for this game as regular as they could, and just were never ever at any point of this game looking like a team that was going to just grab it by the scruff of the neck and take control of it. Not at all. And especially not in the way in which they conceded so early in this game against Alex Morgan. She scores to open this game up in the opening couple of minutes and now has 5 goals on this season. It is a tight race for the early Golden Boot race. Several players with 5 goals, including Lynn Williams. Happy birthday again.
And Crystal Dunn. Those are the top 3.
Crystal Dunn, Morgan Hatch, Dunn, Williams, all players with 5 goals right now in this very, very early Golden Boot race. But I mean, look, I think if you're looking bigger picture here, if you're looking maybe in your eyes on a World Cup that's about 60 days away, you love this for Alex Morgan, and you really love it if you're San Diego.
Yeah, massive win for San Diego to get this one. We're talking about the stats. 1 shot on target for the Dash in this game. Just as you said, nothing coming from the Houston side to get back into this. And the opening 2 minutes of this game where it's a very, very poor giveaway in the back line for Houston Dash. A soft pass back to Jane Campbell, goalkeeper. I think we saw that 3 times this weekend where defenders gave bad, weak passes, not a lot of mustard on them, back to their goalkeeper, and forwards looked to attack. They put pressure on the ball, they chased it down, and that's what Alex Morgan does in the opening 90 seconds of this game. She gets one of the fastest goals that we've seen her get in a very long time, and that's how this game starts. So 2 minutes in, Houston's already staring down the barrel of the gun of a San Diego side that is coming off a shutout win on the road. This is their third road game. They could have looked very different than San Diego did, but they looked refreshed, rejuvenated, like they were playing at home, like they had the upper hand, like they were 15 games undefeated coming into this one, and Houston just looked completely defeated after this opening 2 minutes. And I was waiting for them to pick up their heads and can we turn things around? No, none of that came. With the front line, we talked a little bit about Diana Ordonez and where we would see her. She was out last week in match week 7 for Houston. She was available off the bench and she came in for Salmon. So again, we don't see Salmon and Ordonez playing together on the pitch. Instead it's Alozi, Sanchez, and Salmon getting the start, and then Ordonez coming in off the bench. But rough for Houston and really good for San Diego, right? They have turned things around. We got to see Sierra Enge, the San Diego native, get her first NWSL goal. Madison Pogarsh, she gets the third goal for San Diego. That's her first goal in a Wave jersey.
Assisted by Alex Morgan. Yeah,
exactly. And both of those goals, the second and the third for San Diego, coming off corner kicks and set pieces. You got to fix that, Houston. That's really struggle. That's bad for them, right? Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's rough.
Yeah, I mean, look, this was one of the teams in the offseason that we looked at. Like, what are the moves that this franchise are making to make sure that they capitalize on their season that they had last year, where they finally broke through to the playoff picture out of a regular season after years and years and years of missing out. Could they capitalize on maybe some of that success that they found in that bubble in 2020, and where would it go? And it finally happens in 2022, and we're just sort of seeing this disconnect a little bit. They brought on a new coach in Sam Lady, and maybe trying some things out, or lack of trying things out, or not plugging in players in the same, or in the areas in which they're not finding success at the moment. I gotta imagine it's frustrating to a certain extent. And I think when we're looking at kind of just the sort of the lack of midfield support, I think as well for this Dash team, I think is a struggle for this attacking trio that we talk about, that we are looking to see anywhere. Like any week now, we're going to see like some lethal action here. But now with Ordonez kind of making her return, we still haven't seen the trio in action, and we're referring to Sanchez and Ordonez and Salmon as well. But I mean, look, everything that we're saying about San Diego, I think maybe they were a little bit motivated about some of the results from last year against Houston. It's very cool to talk to head coach Casey Stoney, and sort of now that she's got a whole year of experience coaching in the NWSL, and how she's targeting certain game plans against certain teams. I mean, and has highlighted playing against Houston in Houston, and how you have to perhaps change your tactics a bit to make sure that your team is successful on the road, away in the Texas heat. And it was very cool to just see come to life. And I love a rookie goal from Sierra Enge as well. I mean, look, this is a player that they specifically made a trade for. They wanted to jump up in the draft to make sure that they nabbed this player, right? And she gets rewarded with the effort and the goal. So just a good win for San Diego. Keeps them in the contenders conversation, really.
And with Houston, we talked about it a little bit, but we saw Sam Lady switching up formations, right? Trying to 3-back in this one. Yeah. I just don't think that's effective, right? Like Caprice Dydasco is so good on the flanks, and yes, you need her to get into the attack. So to in theory, having her as a wingback might be good, but when you're going up against Alex Morgan, Sophia Jakobsen, Jaden Shaw, you need to have a little bit more stability and structure in that back line. And Dydasco, although she however great she is getting crosses into the box and on the attacking end, I think she's an even better defender 1v1. And so you need her across your back line. We'll see. We saw a lot of like formation shifts this week.
We did, and I'm a little curious. Maybe as we pivot out to maybe finally talk about these two games before, let's maybe close out this segment here. Like, is there a certain point in a 22 game regular season that a coaching staff has to say, okay, this right here, this formation, these tactics, these right here are going to be the old reliables? Is it now, or is it like, or has that time passed for a team?
I mean, we have turned the page. We are a third of the way through the season. We are 8 games in a 22 game season. Yep. That's some math right there. And yes, you have to have your old reliable. Now, if your team if the tactics are strong enough, and honestly, the players' soccer IQs are smart enough, you can maybe have a couple in your arsenal. We saw that with Portland Thorns last year. They went on and won the championship, switching between a 4-back, a 3-back, 5 in the midfield, 3 in the midfield, 2 in the midfield. They were all over the place, but it worked for them because it was really hard for opposition to prepare against a Portland side when mid-game, all of a sudden they could switch and just like that be on the front foot in a brand new formation. But it's really hard to do that and to master that. You have to master one before you can start to add more into your arsenal. And I think we're just seeing too much of a change from some of these teams that are struggling and they're looking for a solution.